Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is Luca Majno with Frank Gregory Ford. This is Global News Update on TLBTV, where we give you complete, backstage, up-to-date info as to the developments occurring in our world today. And you know what? It's really important. This is a double-edged sword, because if people don't understand what happened in the past, they won't be able to appreciate how things are in the present and where this is all going. And Greg is one of those people, as a co-host of the show. He knows what happened, and he's been in this stuff for 30 years, so this is nothing new for him. And what we're trying to do is educate people. A couple of shows ago, we told you that we had proof that members of Congress, besides most of them being Rothschild Zionist agents, had to sign what they call a pledge to Israel, a pledge of allegiance to Israel. This is required, apparently, but not mandatory. And if you didn't take the pledge, well, they would slowly start to work against you. You'd find out that, your campaign would be smeared, and then your reputation would be smeared, and they'd rig things so that you wouldn't have as many votes as you needed, et cetera, et cetera. Welcome to the game, right? Well, in this episode, we found that this continues. It continues on as planned. It's the engineered agenda. What you're looking at now is a list of traitors. That's right, traitors. After all, signing a pledge of allegiance to any other country but the one you swore originally to serve is treasonous, right? So here's the list. These are the tyrants in government who co-sponsored a bill to make it a crime to boycott or to criticize Israel. This is tyranny, right? See how it starts? It's step by step. Or treason. Treason is the same thing as tyranny, right, Greg?
Yeah, one begets the other, as they say.
Well, okay, so to give you an example of who, in the 2010 White House alone, okay, just to give an example, thanks to David Icke, where, Rothschild Zionists live, okay, they serve as puppets. They're agents to the Rothschild dynasty, or agents to control the control system, okay? The goon squads of mercenaries, they included Rahm Emanuel, David Axelrod, George Soros, Henry Kissinger, Peter Orszag, okay? The Federal Reserve as well, privately owned central bank. Does that ring a bell? Run by the Rothschild Zionist Bernard Bernanke, who replaced Alan Greenspan, another Rothschild Zionist. Even the climate change policy of the Obama administration in 2010 was run by the Rothschild Zionists. So you can tell this is very, very clear that it's going on over and over again, and it continues. The climate change policy was run by Carol Browner and Todd Stern. Both of them were Rothschild Zionists. And as David Icke says so well, Mossad is not the intelligence agency of Israel, it's the intel agency of the Rothschilds, turning up all over the world with false flag setups, with terrorist events, assassinations, coups d'etats. It's a big game, right? And it's carrying on the policy not of Israel, but of the Rothschilds, because the Rothschilds control Israel. Think of Israel as the child of the Rothschilds, just like the United States. So, Greg, after my rant, welcome to the show, and that's what I have to say on that one.
Well, a couple of things on that, Luca, and it's good to be on your show. Okay, here, understand this, is the first real effective intelligence agency was the Rothschild Intelligence Agency set up, and it's been refining its talents ever since. How do you think the Rothschilds became so famous? All right. And here's the thing is they partly patterned their intelligence agencies on the Russian Oprikina, the Tsar's intelligence agencies, which were very effective. All right. So, yes, that's what we have. And if you notice, when there was a Russian revolution, guess who was leading the revolution? It was the Zionist Jews, okay? The Zionist Jews. Bolsheviks. What do you think they are? Muslim? What do you think they are? Hindu? No, they're Hebrews, okay? Guess what, folks? That's what we're dealing with here. When you see Russian intelligence agents retire, okay, and go and get out so they can go make some money, where do you think they go? You think they come to Secaucus, New Jersey? You think they go to Bakersfield, California? No, they go to bright, sunny, and warm Tel Aviv, Israel. Okay? Hence, you have something now called the Russian-Israeli mob, okay? Or RIM, all right, for short. Guess who runs the world, folks? Do I need to spell it out anymore? It's RIM, okay? Guess who runs Donald Trump? The RIM, all right? I mean, guess who owns the Clintons? The RIM, okay? Remember when Mr. Clinton, that tousled-haired little scamp that we all love, okay? Remember when he started handing out pardons at the end of his illustrious presidential career? Guess what? They all went to RIM folks that had been under indictment and been sought for many, many years, i.e. Mark Rich, wink, wink, Mark Rich, right? Okay. So that's what we have here.
Oh,
okay.
Before we get into Israel and before we get into Iraq and the convenient terrorists, I have to say this about John McCain, okay? Yeah, we both have the book. I got to say this. About John McCain, okay? And we have the pictures that we're running here to show you. John McCain was he was charged with treason and very, very serious charges for aiding and abetting the enemy. And guess who pardoned him? Guess who had a father? Was it the Admiral McCain?
2 admirals.
Right.
His grandfather was a 4-star. His father was a 4-star.
So you can't make this look bad, right? So
I have something to add to that. Now you mention it, Luca. You open that door.
Uh-oh.
All right. So here's for your listeners.
There you go.
Guess who blew the shit out of a U.S. ship? Okay, called the Liberty. Okay, and guess who was really upset about it when it wasn't sunk? You think it was Israel? Oh, they gave it a good shot. I just love the photographs, the footage of Israeli gunboats machine gunning U.S. sailors that were on fire, leaping into the ocean, and they were being machine gunned.
Yeah.
I guess that's a mistaken identity is what they said. Wink, wink. Okay. But here's the part I love. It was the McCains who did their best to make sure that Israel never faced any kind of retaliation, any kind of investigation over it. And I've got in my home, I have footage of LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson, running around the Oval Office, okay, saying, I want that goddamn ship on the bottom of the ocean. And everybody looked panicked at the camera, like, oh my God. He didn't just say that. He was talking about the Liberty. All right, folks? That's how long the Russian-Israeli mob has been dictating and running this show. Much longer than what you think. And now they have for America, they have a group called AIPAC, American Israeli Political Action Committee. My God, that sounds about as innocuous and welcoming and supporting of mutual friendship, beneficial friendship for everyone involved, doesn't it? Okay. All right. Well, I have a special issue about all of this because when I was in Iraq, I noticed my intelligence nets were falling apart, okay? And the Iraqis were saying, look, we don't trust you people anymore. We think you're working with the Israelis, okay? We don't trust you. We are going to quit giving you intelligence. And why are you torturing our people? Why are you doing this, all right? These are our children you're grabbing and torturing. And, okay, and it turns out that who I recruited, the head of ISIS, they claim he's dead. Okay, oh, yeah, right. Who was it who gave him medical care when he was shot in the head? Guess who, folks? It was Israel. Don't you have some footage, Luca, showing an Apache helicopter supporting on an Apache attack helicopter. I want you to show everybody supporting an ISIS truck column.
Right.
All right? Okay? Yes, we have that, and we need to show it.
And then
okay?
the next picture shows no helicopter.
My goodness. Now, who got a hold of that and who did some photoshopping? Okay? Now, it's probably the same folks that got a hold of a photo of me when I was an operative, and they flashed it out on the internet, busy trying to discredit me. Okay? Guess who? All right? That's how much they care about Americans, folks. You know, it was the Israelis who got us into this mess in Iraq, and I found out by recruiting by the Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. It's not his real name. Everybody knows his real name by now, I hope. I told you enough, okay? And Mr. Baghdadi is a Mossad operative. I didn't know it at the time, but that vicious little shit is a Mossad operative, okay? Besides being a colonel in the Mukhabarat, he was an operative. So does that make any sense now? Why ISIS isn't defeatable? Okay, why an Israeli general was caught leading ISIS? Why an American general was caught leading ISIS? Why they have American arms and they have Apache helicopters leading them? Does that make any sense? And my goodness, I was given some more information about some of the weapons and munitions we seized in Iraq being turned over to ISIS not too long ago, okay? So does that make any sense why Hillary Clinton supports ISIS? Don't believe me, folks, look it up, okay? Yes, is that why Senator McCain supports ISIS? Is that why Senator Lindsey Graham supports ISIS? Is that why Joe Lieberman, okay, supports ISIS? And by the way, he really wants to shut the internet down, folks. He doesn't like bad things being said about Israel, okay? So yes, do people understand this? Is that sinking in? Is anybody out there that's understanding this? All right.
Well, what we have today for everybody, and there is a warning in the beginning of this video for graphic content. And the reason is because nobody seems to give a shit about giving back Frank Gregory Ford the honor that he deserves. But what we're going to do in this broadcast is we're showing 21 images of Abu Ghraib prison as they are on the internet for everybody to see, but nobody seems to want to look at them because they're too upsetting, right? We'll try and be in that place like Frank Gregory Ford was, and in his honor, since nobody else is doing it, I'm going to do it for him. And this is something that's very important to me, and we're going to show them right now. So what do you have to say while we're showing them, Greg?
Yeah, I'm going to read something while we're showing this,
okay,
if you don't mind, Luca. In January 1989, the CIA informed the Senate committee that inhumane physical or psychological techniques are counterproductive because they do not produce intelligence and will probably result in false answers. Testimony of the CIA Deputy Director for Operations in 1988, Richard Stoltz, denounced coercive interrogation techniques, stating physical abuse or other degrading treatment was rejected not only because it is wrong, but because it is historically proven to be ineffective. By October 2001, the CIA policy was to comply with the Department of the Army Field Manual Intelligence Interrogation. Okay, gee, imagine that, what I was working with in Iraq, okay, till the CIA came along. A CIA Directorate of Operations Handbook from October 2001 states that the CIA does not engage in human rights violations, which is defined as torture, cruel, inhumane, degrading treatment or punishment, or prolonged detention without charges or trial. God, it's beginning to sound like the U.S., okay? The handbook further stated that it is CIA policy to neither participate directly nor encourage interrogation which involves the use of force, mental or physical torture, extremely demeaning indignities, or exposure to inhumane treatment of any kind as an aid to interrogation. Well, Luca, your folks are looking at somebody, I assume I'm on the show, that has had all of those visited upon me when I tried to stop this behavior that is obviously illegal. Okay? I was renditioned and tortured and then told by the Supreme Court, oh, well, we don't like where this case goes. We don't want anybody embarrassed. We're not going to go there. Okay? All right. A closing statement. In a further classified memo entitled Hostile Interrogations, Legal Considerations for CIA Officers, dated November 21st, 2001, the Israeli, did everybody hear that? The Israeli example is cited, yes, is cited as possible basis for an arguing before the courts and the American people that torture was necessary to prevent imminent, significant physical harm to persons, where there is no other available means to prevent the harm. That was page 84 and 85 out of The Convenient Terrorist by Joseph Hickman and John Kiriakou. Joseph Hickman, my very good friend and fellow intelligence agent, and John Kiriakou, the CIA agent who ran down and captured Abu Zubaydah on the front page, Abu Zubaydah. And when he said this man can't be tortured, this doesn't make a case, our CIA was so enlightened that they put him in prison for 2 years to keep the public from finding out what was done at Guantanamo to these people. And you don't think for a second that the CIA isn't going to do this to America? All right? Hey, I'm living proof. I'm the only U.S. citizen known that has survived rendition and torture, all right, for reporting war crimes. Well, guess what? You know, Donald Trump was so upset about finding out about me that he ordered that idiot, that Cro-Magnon, Rex Tillerson, to go ahead and shut down the Office of War Crimes Investigation. We have no more war crimes investigation. What does that tell the average person with an IQ above 25? Okay, that says that yes, we are going to start committing war crimes all over the world. Who cares? So what? All right, that's what we're facing. And you think, oh, that's way off in the future. That'll never happen to us. First of all, the President of the United States can order a strike on anybody he wants in the United States, any U.S. citizen, anywhere. Just ask Mr. al-Awlaki in Yemen, okay? You know, and for good measure, by the way, a week later, his 15-year-old son was blown to bits too, okay? And they can order a torture of any U.S. citizen. What do you think they're going to do in those camps? Oh, those FEMA camps. Are they going to be kinder and gentler FEMA camps? No, folks. Guess what? They're already reeling in mechanical methods of execution, visible execution. Okay? I mean, you should be really afraid right now. I mean, we're past the tipping point. Now, you know, and we're within days of another war starting. What part about that don't you understand? We're within days. So yes, look at those photos, because guess what? You people, everyone listening, is not that far away from being in those photos, okay? And you better hope that there's somebody like me that's going to step forward and say, we can't be doing this to our own people. We can't be doing it, all right? That's what I see happening in the next few days. We've got a maniac, a lunatic, very smart lunatic, who is a prodigy of the big energy industry in the White House right now. Okay? Anybody thinks he's normal, stable, kinder, gentler? Okay? I mean, like another George H.W. Bush? Oh my goodness, yeah. God, the pedophile of the century, George W. Bush. H.W. Bush too. Okay? No, folks, we did it again. We had a chance to get rid of Obama, the two-faced Manchurian candidate. We never did figure out where he was born. We never did figure out what his social security number was. And here we go. We got this imbecile in here, this New York snake oil salesman, who the biggest highlights of his life is going to Orgy Island. courtesy of Jeffrey Epstein.
There you go.
Okay?
Well, very
This
quickly.
doesn't sound healthy.
Very quickly, Greg, you wanted to weigh in on the use of DUs, and I got something I want to add too before the end of the show, the depleted uranium. And I want the folks out there to listen to this very carefully, because this is serious stuff. Everybody thinks that it's got nothing to do with us because it's so far away, right, Greg?
Right. Oh, yeah. No, folks. Hey, your loved ones that you've given birth to, okay, those little guys that look up at you with all the trust in the world, that you call children. Well, the Department of Defense doesn't quite see it that way, okay? The Department of Defense views your children as expendable for the plutocrats and the kleptocrats to make lots and lots of money, okay? I was in Iraq. The first thing I did was filed on the burn pits. The burn pits. Look them up right now. There's a massive court case, in a district court case right now, while they're waiting for a decision, which I already told Susan Burke, their lawyer representing them, they're going to lose it. They're going to lose the case because, hey, weapons of mass destruction were being destroyed in those burn pits, called sarin gas and VX gas were being destroyed in those burn pits. That's what made everybody sick. Everybody that comes back from Iraq, including the son of Joe Biden, the vice president back at the time, guess what? They're all dying of brain cancers, of horrific kidney cancers, liver cancers, lung cancers. Yeah, all those, well, they deserve it, all those 20-something-year-olds. Yeah, they really deserve that, right? Guess whose children they are, people. Guess whose children. And the Department of Defense just issued a statement saying they don't care about your children. They are expendable. They are going to continue using depleted uranium warheads to completely saturate the areas, like, as I said earlier, Luca, the highway of death, which I went down myself, okay? The highway of death, that was the invasion point for the second OIF, okay, of Iraq. Went in, and we're all exposed. Everybody was exposed to the most toxic levels of depleted uranium, as in plutonium-238, okay, in the world, all right? And Doug Roque, he is trying to tell everybody about that, and the Department of Defense basically told him to shut up about it, and if he's going to die of his kidney cancer, which he now has, from being exposed to these munitions, guess what? Die, is what they're telling him. And we consider all soldiers expendable, okay? So if they die, but they should do the right thing and not report to the Veterans Administration for medical treatment. They are telling the VA right now, VA medicine, right now, as we speak, do not acknowledge any symptom of radiation poisoning or nerve gas poisoning, VX gas poisoning, okay? They are telling them that, all right? You don't believe me. Please don't believe me. Call up the Veterans Administration and ask them exactly that, okay? Yes, your children are going to die a horrible death if they go in the military, especially since there's 10 wars going on now that we're supporting, we're pushing, and as long as they can get you to offer your sons and daughters bodies up, okay, and loved ones bodies up to be horrifically exposed and die, guess what? They're going to keep doing it, okay? And by the way, don't let them use that old rube about drafting them. But you don't, if they don't volunteer, we're going to draft them. Okay, fine. Go ahead, and we'll just go ahead and draft. We'll draft. Let me see. Dick Cheney. He managed to weasel out of it. Okay. Oh, George W. Bush. Remember the incredible president who was a pilot? Right. Exactly. Who quote flew his own jet fighter onto the deck of an aircraft carrier. Did you see that thing? What a joke. Remember the cod piece? Okay. George Codpiece Bush. Okay. Yeah. And then we won't mention Rumsfeld, Rummy. All right. It goes on and on. Okay, everybody's a draft dodger that were neocons. Man, oh, and are we going to mention Mr. Trump? Okay, how he managed to dodge the draft. Okay, but boy, what a tough guy. All these guys are tough guys. Okay, they all want to go in and kick everybody's butts right now with somebody else's kids
Exactly.
and somebody else's kids' bodies. All right, that's what we have here. Yes, we've got 10 wars going on, and we've got another one showing up. Okay, yes, we're gonna do it to North Korea. All right, there we go. I hope those pictures you're showing right now for your listeners, Luca.
Well, let me put it to you this way. Before I give you the floor to say goodbye for this show, I have to give you the quotes that I promised I'd give you on Doug Roke. And we did this in a much earlier show, but we have to do it again because it's so relevant. Okay? Quote, the Gulf War was the most toxic war known to man. The United States, back in the 80s, deliberately and willfully provided Iraq with the weapons of mass destruction that we're ready to go to war over today. The purpose of war is to kill, he said. The United States of America made the conscious and deliberate decision to use depleted uranium munitions. The Iraq War is the most toxic war in history. During the Gulf War, the United States fired over 350 tons of munitions containing uranium-238. Very quickly, I got to say this. Depleted uranium munitions are solid uranium-238. They're not coated, they're not tipped. Every single tank round fired from an Abrams tank is 10 pounds of solid uranium-238 contaminated with plutonium, neptunium, and americium. The majority of the casualties of the Gulf War, the majority of Americans that died during the Gulf War and that were injured in the Gulf War were a result of friendly fire, the U.S. shooting the U.S. with uranium munitions. And when he was told to go clean up the mess, as he said that Schwarzkopf told him to, within 72 hours, like your story on the highway of death, they started to get sick. They started to have bleeding, ulcers. They started to have rashes, nosebleeds, things like that. So this is what we're up against. And before I give you the floor, Greg, to say goodbye, I have to say this again because it's very important. Greg, you have not gotten an apology from the United States government, and you never will, probably, because they don't have any remorse. They don't have any remorse for what they did to the Aboriginal people, the original people of Turtle Island. They don't have any remorse for what they're doing now or what they did to 30 million people worldwide since the end of World War II. So I am apologizing to you from the United States government for what they did to you in Iraq because, for you, it's never going to be over. And this is what people have to understand. This is what's going to happen to your kids if you put them in the war. And if there's no kids enlisting, there won't be any war because the politicians aren't going to do it. They're not going to send their kids. Remember Michael Moore going to politicians saying, hey, when's your kid going to be enlisted? Right? They walk away from him. They run away from him. They tell the cops to go after them. So this is my official apology to you, Greg, on the airways from that.
Thank you, Luca. On a closing statement, remember Stormin' Norman, the first Gulf War, Schwarzkopf? Well, here, folks, you can take this to bed with you tonight, and when you look at your children, you can remember this too, okay? Stormin' Norman, the hero of the first Gulf War, well, he had a little secret that nobody wants to talk about, very few people know about, but I'm going to tell you, courtesy of this wonderful open news channel, all right? I'm going to tell you this. Stormin' Norman was the only one who was notified that there was VX/GF nerve gas agent sold to Saddam Hussein, a former CIA operative, by the way, by the Bush family, the Carlyle Group. I found 29 canisters. They're called canisters, 1,000-pound bomb canisters. Those were the same ones that when they were detonated, the brigade that was there of engineers to detonate those explosives, guess what, people? Every single one of those bright-eyed downy-faced boys and girls that were there, they're all dead. Okay? They are dead. And they died of nerve gas issues. Okay? They tried to detonate those things that they had no idea what they were dealing with. The only person who knew about it was Stormin' Norman. Okay? He didn't tell anybody during the first Gulf War that they were dealing with American-made, Bush-provided, George H.W. Bush provided canisters that killed the Lost Brigade. And as I always say on a closing note, don't believe me. Please go look it up yourselves. That's one of the miracles of the internet. You can look this stuff up, folks. You know, and Joe Lieberman won't want you to. Okay, oi, oi. But hey, guess what? Okay, Stormin' Norman knew, and he sent all those boys and girls to their graves. All right, loved ones, all somebody's children to their graves. Okay, there it is. Understand that, and that's what we have facing us in a few days. Thank you, Luca.
Well, Greg, it's been an honor as usual. And again, an apology to you from the United States government for what happened to you in Iraq. And from me, your brother. We're at the end of Global News Update. Thank you so much for this, for watching us, for being with us. And we have over 2,400 views in less than 24 hours on our last show. So we're hoping that things continue. Thanks for being on the show, Greg, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Luca.